Typically what can go wrong is not engaging with people who have done it already. The industry as a whole right now is struggling with a limit in funding. In some ways we can step in and say, hey, that's a danger zone, like don't go there. You're going to sink a lot of money trying to figure that out.
Our coverage of Meeting on the Med in Rome is currently sponsored by Cellular. I am Federico Citterich, reporting for Onyx live here in Rome at the Meeting on the Med. Today we took some time to talk with Sarmitha Sathiamoorthy, President at AspireBio Consulting. Sam, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. It's a pleasure. Sarmitha Sathiamoorthy. I am classically trained in molecular and cellular biology. And I have my experience from big pharma like Sanofi and then also startup organizations. And so a nice balance between the big pharma experience and the wearing many hats in a startup organization. And then I started up AspireBio. We're in our 6th year of operation, and we focus on biologics and advanced therapies for the most part. And so this involves supporting early phase to late phase clients all throughout the product development lifecycle in CMC regulatory and quality needs.
Sam, I think this can be a good question for who's watching us. What, from your experience and from what you're seeing between the companies you're working with, goes typically wrong?
Ooh, that's a really good question. So I think typically what can go wrong is not engaging with people who have done it already. So there is no need in our industry right now for many modalities to reinvent any wheels. There's probably someone, for say example, an AAV gene therapy, the blueprint is somewhat there. There are nuances to every program, of course, and there are special considerations, but you should engage with someone who's already manufactured and put an AAV product into the clinic, because they'll be able to help you do the right thing at the right time. So we don't want to overbuild when we are going for a first-in-human therapeutic, but we also want to make sure that we're doing the right thing so that we don't have to repeat anything, because nobody today has money to be repeating any activities.
Sometimes I believe there's also a gap between strong science but also successful evolution and execution. So what do you think can cause that, and how do companies have to address it more in general?
Yeah, we're all scientists at heart when we step into this industry. Science drives the success of a program, and decisions should be based on a scientific foundation. But there is also something called analysis paralysis. The science doesn't end. And so you can keep on doing investigatory work for forever. So it's understanding what is needed, and someone who has experience putting a product into the clinic will be able to guide with that. So understanding what's needed, and then ensuring that you're collecting the data and the science in order to get to that endpoint, get to that milestone, so that you can make go, no-go decisions and then move to the next phase.
What would you say to a company entering the space for the first time? What do you think is the thing they have to focus on first of all?
Having good quality data. So, but understanding what that means from an industry perspective, because it's not always the same answer for what an academic institution might need versus what a company might need, and what a regulatory authority is going to look for when they're evaluating whether you should put this therapeutic into a human being. And so collecting good quality data, but understanding what that data package needs to look like, will streamline that development pathway.
And also I wanted to ask obviously a question about MoMed. We are here in Rome at the Meeting on the Med. Do you think that the people here talked about their challenges as well, or they are still mainly focused on, presenting mostly their positive stories?
Yeah, I think we tend to focus on the positive stories. We don't often speak about true challenges. I mean, the industry as a whole right now is struggling with a limit in funding, right? And so again, having a very streamlined, pragmatic view of how you're going to achieve your end goals will also help with having these conversations with investors. And also with regards to, if you understand the steps involved and the cost of those steps involved, then you can have a very informed discussion, and it doesn't become a very like hand-wavy, nebulous discussion that you're having with potential investors. And that's going to instill a lot of confidence. Now, with regards to sharing negative stories, you know, this is kind of like backroom conversations about this, but very rarely are companies sitting down on a conference stage and essentially talking about that in a very transparent way. And I wish it happened more often. But not to plug AspireBio, the benefit of engaging with a group like ours or any other group is that we are in those backroom conversations with a lot of other therapeutic developers as well. And so in some ways we can step in and say, hey, that's a danger zone. Like, don't go there. You're going to sink a lot of money trying to figure that out. We don't need to figure that out. Or the regulator is going to be really, really concerned about this. If we don't address it early on and head on, it's going to end up costing us more money down the road. So there is benefit to having those types of conversations. We're not having it at the conference level, but it can be had at different forums.
Sam, from your experience, your work, do you think there's something that is perhaps discussed privately, but it's under-discussed and really important to be discussed on, and should be, you know, discussed more also in public settings?
Not to get into technical details here, but if you think about maybe a non-clinical study and what one sponsor might be able to negotiate with a regulatory authority and kind of reduce the burden of a non-clinical package, or negotiate some things in the CMC space, or the wins essentially that we have from a regulatory perspective that that companies gain through these negotiations. I wish those were shared more openly, because that's how we can learn as an industry and not overbuild the system. So if there's a precedent that's set, to loudly broadcast that precedent, so the next person that's coming up with that therapy can also leverage that experience.
Sam, thank you very much for staying with us and for your insights.
It was great to meet with you and chat with you. Thank you again.